All right, the Algebra 1 topic for this lesson is actually two topics. One is just a review of arithmetic, and sometimes that's that's a real general term. Arithmetic generally means just adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. And that can involve fractions, that can involve decimals also, rather than just simple numbers. And the other topic is something that you've had before, as with arithmetic, but it's called unit conversions. And it seems like from past history, at least from the past classes that I've taught, unit conversion seems to be something that's a little bit more difficult and maybe something that you didn't quite understand, but I know you'll be able to get this down after we go through this. First thing I want you to do, and you can pause this and replay it however you want to, but I want you to, in your notebook, write down this tree map, what I call a tree map. Now, in this tree map, what we have here is just showing what some of the numbers are. All this is just kind of representing, there are so many different types of numbers. You can have numbers that aren't decimals. You can have numbers that aren't fractions. You can have numbers that are fractions, that are decimals. You can have decimals that keep on going. They never stop. You can have decimals that do stop, or in other words, terminate. So all this is a guide just to be able to communicate a little better as far as what type of numbers we're actually talking about. Now let's start at the very top. Real numbers really is any number. It's a very general term. Real numbers, you could think of an example of this would be, as far as a real general term, would be, how about sports at South Hart? Now, sports at South Hart is a very general term because there's so many sports that we have at South Hart. So now you can break down real numbers though into two categories, and the two categories are rational and irrational. Now today we're going to spend a little time here on rational numbers. Now rational numbers can be broken down. Any rational number can be broken down into three types of numbers, which we call integers, whole numbers, and natural. Now before we move on to these, let's talk about really what we mean by rational numbers. A rational number is any number you can write as a fraction. So if you can take a number and write it as a fraction, it's going to be rational. So in other words, irrational then would be numbers that you cannot write as a fraction. And I'll give you some examples of that here in a little bit. So any number that you can write as a fraction, it's going to be rational. So for example, I'm going to put some in. I want you to also write down some of these examples. How about 2? Can you write 2 as a fraction? Sure. 2 over 1. So 2 is rational. How about, let's say any fraction. Say I have 3/4. Well, obviously that's a fraction, so it's rational. How about if I have, say, 2 and 1/7? How about a mixed number? Well, a mixed number, as we found out from our last video here, you can write that as a fraction or an improper fraction. 7 times 2 is 14, add 1 is 15/7. So any mixed numbers are rational. Any decimal, for example, 0.2, I can write that as a fraction. That's 2/10, right? And actually, any repeating decimal, like 0.333, and it keeps on going, I can write any repeating decimal actually as a fraction. So all of those are rational numbers. Now we can take all these examples that I wrote down here, and you could fit them into one of these three types of numbers. And what I want you to do here is, as I change the slide here, I want you to write down what I have on this slide. So pause it, and then you can restart it again. So as we've said before, a rational number is any number you can write as a fraction. Any number you can write as a fraction, and I should write that in up here. Now, a whole number whole numbers are rational numbers. So whole numbers are 0, 1, 2, 3, dot, dot, dot. Notice whole numbers do not include fractions and they do not include decimals. Now, natural numbers, sometimes we call those the counting numbers. Because when you start counting, you usually start with 1. So 1, 2, 3, dot, dot, dot. Again, I don't have fractions, I don't have decimals. So what's the only difference between whole numbers and natural numbers? 0. Integers are numbers that you're also going to throw in some negatives. So in other words, a -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, dot, 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 and it keeps on going, both directions if you wanted to keep on writing them out. Again, I don't have fractions and I don't have decimals included. Now, notice back here, I did have some fractions up there, I did have some decimals, but today here, we're really zeroing in, just getting you acquainted with these three terms. Okay, so whole numbers, natural numbers, integers, be very familiar with those, have those in your notes.